Hello, everybody. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome back to another CodeNoobs weekly live stream, although it has not been weekly.
Well, wait.
Semi-weekly.
Semi-weekly. Yeah, we took like
We-
two weeks off. We were traveling, we had stuff going on, so
Stuff happens.
stuff happens, yeah.
We're allowed to take breaks.
We're allowed to take breaks, but we're glad to have you back here. And to commemorate our 420 subscribers that we have, if you didn't notice by the glasses, today...
Smoke them if you got them.
No, today...
Today Russell's eyes are really red.
Yeah, no. We're doing an episode all about vibe coding because who wants to actually code anymore, right? Like what?
Crazy people.
Come on. Like who actually wants to do that? Yeah. We can just wear glasses, listen to chill music, and tell AI to do all the heavy lifting, do all the work. So, but I know because
we are at a point though where it's gotten better now too, where you can do it. Like you couldn't before. Like you just couldn't. Like the AI was not good enough, you know. And I think now it's finally gotten to the point where it's actually doable.
Oh, it's totally doable. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we're at a point where you can pretty much just be like a product manager and watch as the AI does all the heavy work. But I will say this. I think all of us have, been experimenting with vibe coding over the past, I don't know, couple of months at this point with mixed results, right? There's, you can have pretty good results with just like sort of one shot, like, hey, build me a to-do list app. And it'll do pretty good, but when you get a little bit more complex than the most simple apps that are ever made, there's like already
or like a one-page website or something, Yeah.
Right, and even with that,
I mean, snake game.
Yeah, like a snake game. You run into some issues. So today our episode is all about how to improve your experience with vibe coding, and I'm going to at least speak mostly about using Cursor, but I know Danny's been
using
Bolt
recently
for a little bit.
So I can speak on that too. I will say I was going to mention too. It's funny because like it is funny that when you talk about generating like content like images and stuff, people always talk about the importance of like iterating, right, to get what you want.
Yeah.
But then when they talk about coding, nobody talks about iterate. They just act like it should be like perfect.
It just feels like too much work, like when you're coding and you have to type a little bit, and
I gotta sit here and type out sentences. That's insane.
Yeah. So I made a big list of different things, and I'll go through many of them. And I guess like if you guys want to comment on your experience with these, we can do it that way. And if you have other ones that I missed, certainly let me know. So the first thing that I think most people miss is that they just go straight into coding, right? They open up Cursor and they're like, I want to build this app, and they just start prompting the agent to start building. And I think that's probably the biggest oversight that most people have. I myself did that many times in the beginning.
But I think we all did, right? Where you go in and you're like, build me this.
Yeah.
And like without any kind of thought or any kind of planning, no kind of idea of what's going on. You just assume that it's going to kind of make, do everything right, organize a project correctly, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the things that I've noticed over the past few months is that if you actually plan out your project, you're going to get a lot better results. And there's different ways to do that. You can use like the software development lifecycle idea to plan your project and build like a PRD and build mission statement, user stories. I think that's really good. And the more that you can actually build out a document that has a lot of information about what you want to build in it, the better success you're going to have. And a little tip that I have is I noticed this was really good on the last project that I have been building, is to start with your target avatar. And by that, I mean, who is the target customer, right? We so often make software and we're like, hey,
somebody will find it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also like, let me just build a to-do list app, but we're not targeting like who is the end user of this, right? To-do list for what, right? Who's that person that's going to use it? Because you build things for everyone and you're essentially building them for no one. So it's really good to identify who is that avatar, right? Like who's going to use your app. Do you guys agree
It's
with
a good
that?
point.
Yeah.
It's not like Field of Dreams. It's not like if you build
Yeah.
it, they will come.
Yeah.
You need to.
Because there's a million of them. So you got to like figure
No,
out.
I think that is a good point because like, I think that's also one of the roadblocks I think a lot of people have is like, well, that thing exists. It's like, yeah, but does it for that market?
Yeah.
Because we all have this experience, right, with like software, especially like stuff that is trying to be for everybody ends up being so complicated you can't use it.
Yeah.
So like finding that audience is really important, I think.
Yeah.
And I think to your point about planning is like it makes such a world of difference when you know where you're going. Because
Absolutely.
it's like it's the same as if you're going to code it yourself, right? You need to know what's next step, and you can use AI for that too. Like I like doing that myself, like especially when I'm working alone, where I don't need like by myself, I don't necessarily need like a full like detailed everything written out. I'll
Yeah.
get a quick like a quick PRD of like basic requirements. Then I'll go through and edit it and write my
Yep.
own to-do notes, and then just follow those and knock everything out, right? And then you
Yeah.
naturally break it up into small segments, which makes the actual vibe coding easier.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed something interesting too about building this avatar was this, right? So if you think about large language models, they're trained on just a wide variety of information. So when you give it a generalized prompt, it sort of doesn't know where to go in its knowledge bank to find that information. I know I'm like oversimplifying how AI works right now, but it just sort of gives you a generalized answer or makes assumptions about your answer. But I noticed that by giving it an avatar, it actually built better content into things like the landing page and like the sales content from the beginning. So like, for example, I have been working on this application called Renew Pick, and it basically just takes a photo, like an old photo, and restores it. And I built out the avatar, like the target avatar, before starting to build the app. And I, decided I was going to target people who are like 50 and older because those were people who probably had old pictures that they wanted renewed. And so what's interesting is when I actually went and prompted Cursor, it automatically added targeting in, and like the testimonials that it created were all people who are 50 and older. It used language that they were comfortable with and like knew, right? So understanding who your avatar is will actually just provide that little bit more of context for your AI models to understand, like, who should I be targeting? How should I make this look? I mean, even just the style of the website is more targeted towards that older generation. It's like white mode instead of dark mode, right? Which is
It's
totally
funny.
like that,
Yeah, I use
And the font is really big.
It is, dude. Like for real,
Yeah.
it literally did that.
It makes sense though. Yeah, because I mean that makes sense.
All the
though, right?
buttons are like half the page.
Yeah, it's just huge.
Yeah.
The click here. Yeah, I
Or
did that
go to
with the
jail.
when I did the started the project with Bolt. I was using Reddit stuff to get ideas,
Yeah.
and then so I included some of that into the initial prompt, and it did a good job with the design and keeping it kind of in line with that, which I think that's a good idea. Is having some
Yeah.
idea of who you're targeting makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Especially because it is going to make assumptions about design, right? And
Yeah, exactly. And it just helps it, as much context as you can give it, the better results you're going to get out of it, right? If you just ask for something general, you're going to get some really generic, usually not great functioning application. Whereas if you're,
I'd like to speak to that a little bit because I think a lot of people expect AI to be a miracle worker or a genie or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's very, very good. But if you understand how it works, it can be a little bit better because while it was trained on all of essentially the whole internet, everything that's out there
Yeah.
on the internet, it's kind of like a foggy old memory. So
Yeah.
it's somewhat like if you saw a movie 10 years ago and I was asking you about the movie, and it's not your favorite movie or something, it's just a movie you saw 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You wouldn't really know that much information about it. You might kind of get the general concept, but if I asked you about characters or different things that happened, you'd be
Yeah.
like, I don't really remember. But then if you refresh, if you watched the movie again yesterday and I ask you today, you're going to know a lot better. And so that's what adding context to AI essentially does. Because while it was trained on all of the internet and while it has a foggy memory of everything out there, if you give it something that's practical, useful for exactly what you're doing, and specifically you give it a longer prompt with more details, you're going to get a much, much better result out of it.
Actually,
Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
think
a
no, that's a
great
good
point.
point. It's a good example. I like that analogy too. It's a good one. The Yeah, I think too, one of the things that I think can help a lot of people is going on to the documentation and reading about like their suggestions for prompting.
That
So
was
go
my
to the
next
go to the
bullet
API
point.
docs. If you
Yeah.
go to the API documentation, they'll give you lots of recommendations for prompting, and you can apply that to when you're using it client side, right? And it
Yeah.
works so much better
You're
because
speaking specifically about like for large language models, right? So like
yeah, yeah.
ChatGPT has
ChatGPT, Gemini,
documentation.
any of
Yeah.
these, Claude, you go to their website, look at the API docs for developers, and they'll have tons of information about how to structure your prompt,
Yeah.
what you can do, what it's good at.
Yes, Randall.
Go ahead.
It's also really helpful to have the AI write the prompts for you.
Yes.
Yes.
So many times I have AI write prompts for me to use in different things. Like if I'm doing deep research, if I'm doing a picture on Midjourney or something like that, I'll have ChatGPT write me a prompt for it to get the things that I actually want.
Yeah. I
I
heard
do it all
this.
the time for projects now too. When you want a prompt, when you're integrating AI, I'm like, make me a
Yeah.
template for this, and then you edit it, and you
Yeah.
get a great starting point. Yeah.
I heard this new term recently. It's called prompt folding. And not the one that you're thinking of, Randall. It's called prompt folding. And basically, it just talks about iterating with AI. So basically, you give it a prompt, and then you ask it how to improve your prompt to get a better result. Because AI sort of has this knowledge of itself of how it works. So it can actually create better prompts for you if you just ask it, like, hey, how can I improve this prompt? What other information would be helpful to understand to get a better result out of this prompt? And you can do that a couple times and get, much better results from it.
I think that's the other thing too, because we're all freaking so impatient now. And
Yes.
all of this requires iteration.
Yes.
Not just accepting the first thing, but doing it multiple times to get to exactly what you want. Because it will get there. That's the impressive thing, is it has gotten very good, but you do need to like keep working with it to keep refining it to get to that like exact thing that you want.